Hey Chuckleheads, welcome back to Space Engineers. And Nolan, this is specifically for you since you've been begging for it, asking for another episode, so here you go. So, some things that I've been doing. Last episode I showed you guys this little thing that I made, the rover driller, which has the back end that you can rotate up, and then the pistons will push down, and it'll drill into the ground and get you lots of ore. The problem I said then was that this one cargo container here was just not enough for one full drill all the way down. So I decided, well, why, waste time making two trips when I can only make one? So I figured, what happens if I extend it, put a second cargo container on it? So that led to this version here, which I did just that. And it was pretty simple. I basically just rotated the drills into their upward position. And in the space where they used to sit, I just put another cargo container, linked everything up, put kind of a little cargo shell, body shell sort of thing around it, rearranged the wheels, added another set, and not too bad. Worked pretty good. Except for one small little problem, which I'm going to show you right here. So we can go driving, and right now I'm full up. I've got a full cargo of 2.5 million kilograms worth of stuff. But it still drives fine. I can go and climb a little bit of hills, but here's where things get problematic. See the back end, how it lifted up there? Here, anytime you go over any of these like curves or bumps or anything that's a little bit, uneven, you're going to get that. Where some of the wheels end up lifting off because it is such a long, stiff, unbending design that any type of curves or undulations, to use a technical term, you're going to lose wheel traction because they're going to come up off the ground. You're going to have some of them that are stay on the ground, and that's good, but some of them won't. See, like there you go again. A little bit of a dip, back end comes up. There's no flexibility in this to conform to the terrain. So as long as I'm going on straight level ground, it's alright. But if I try and do, a little bit of hills, or even just these little bumps, it can create some problems where you lose traction, you lose steering because the wheels don't stay in contact with the ground. So, this being space engineers, the whole idea is to, see, look at that, look at how bad that is. Take a design and say, oh, there's a problem, let's see if we can improve it. And that's really, really bad. That's going to be too steep. I don't think we're going to make it up that. Can we make it up that? I don't know. I've got my two little jet engines on the back there pushing, pushing, pushing. I got 100% power on my wheels. We're still... I don't know if I can go straight up the hill, but I can go off to the side here. That'll work. So again, decent design, worked okay, but not great for anything that's other than flat terrain. So any type of hills or rolling terrain, not going to work very well. So that's where I decided to think about how can I make this into more of a segment design, to where almost like, a truck and trailer sort of thing with a hinge in the middle, so that it can flex and it can twist and it can follow the contours of the terrain a lot better than this does. And after much struggle, I created this monstrosity, which you can see the front end is pretty much the same as the other one, except I added a whole lot more engines to it, and we'll explain why in a minute. But the back end is very different. So I've got some rotors, advanced rotors, because they're the ones that allow cargo to fly through them. arranged here in a way that this one here will allow the trailer to swing this way, like a smiley face, side to side, up and down this way. This one lets it rotate back and forth, left to right this way. And then this rotor lets it swing up and down as it needs to. So you got all three directions of movement available. So whichever type of terrain you're going on, as long as it's not too severe, these rotors will allow you, the front and the back, to have slightly different angles and to be able to stay. So if this is going on one side of a hill and it's got one set of angles, this can have a different set of angles, and they'll still stay together and mostly stay in contact with the ground. But everything here is still relatively the same. So I've got the drill head arrangement with the nested drilling with a zigzag back and forth. I did put some extra cargo containers on here, some smalls. Two reasons. One, I need some extra weight in the back because this trailer has a bad habit, or at least it used to have a bad habit of kicking forward, where the back end would kick up and the front end would kind of pivot down, and that would, that's bad. You don't want it to do that. You want to stay nice and level. So I put some extra cargo containers in the back so that as they fill up, they'll add weight to the back. I also put some atmospheric thrusters back here, and they're pointed this way so that when they're on, they will keep pushing the back end down, 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 which will hopefully help counterbalance some of the tendency for this trailer to want to kick forward. Oh, I also put in this fun little thing here. This one on both sides. So as it's driving, it's got this little wheel. This is basically kind of like a bumper wheel, so that if this does kick down, hopefully it'll hit this wheel. This wheel with the shocks and the piston there will absorb the impact and keep this front end from actually impacting the ground. And then when I park to drill, I just rotate, and then this foot comes in, extends out, and I can lock it into the ground to make it basically to lock the whole arrangement in place so that as I'm drilling it doesn't wiggle around or shift or tilt or anything like that. It just holds it nice and steady for a nice straight drill. Now, why all these engines, especially that big thing? Well, that didn't used to be on there. I originally had just put these on here because you can see there's some hills in the background there, and this is relatively mildly flat, but there are some undulations that when this thing gets full, it gets really, really super heavy. So I was like, okay, you know what, we'll put some engines on there, give it some thrust to help it move, because it does need the only wheels. This is what's frustrating about this. Even though the front end and the back end are connected, so for instance, the batteries up front can actually power all the stuff in the back. For some reason, even though power runs through it, driving controls don't. So these wheels in the back don't actually do anything. They just sit there and spin. The only driving power comes from these wheels up front. These ones don't even steer, which is really annoying. They just sit there. So since I was kind of reduced, like the old one over here, I had 4 pairs of driving wheels. Now I'm reduced down to 3 pairs, but still massive amounts of weight. So I needed some extra thrust to keep it moving. And I've got these, the front and the rear do steer, so they're kind of reverse steering, so the back ones turn the opposite direction of the front ones to do more of a pivot steer sort of a deal. The big jet engine wasn't actually on here to begin with, but I went ice mining once with that arrangement just to see how it works, because there's kind of some steep inclines here. So I came out here with it, got down well enough onto the ice, drilled a nice deep hole, loaded up with a full double cargo container, and this over here is about the shallowest or incline that I have that I can get out of here. And that truck could not do it. With a fully loaded trailer, could not do it. So I was literally stuck here. There was no other way out. There's no nice gradual incline out that I could climb up. There's a spot here, but it's got some pretty steep areas. Like this spot right here comes up, then it levels out a little bit, but then it comes up and it levels out. So it's kind of a little bit humpty over there. So got stuck, needed a lot of power to get out, so I'm like, you know what? Let's just go all out and stick the biggest, most powerful thing we've got. And so I went, got a bunch of materials, and put this on top, and ta-da, it worked. It gave it enough strength that with the motors here on the side and with the wheels on the side, it had enough power to slowly, and again, even with this big motor, it still was very slow climbing out. So that's what I've been up to, is basically just improving designs, going from one to another to another. Now we can show you how it works. We can just go in here and take the parking brake off, and we'll go do some driving, and I'll put my little side thrusters on, because, ooh, look at that. That's too fast. We want to take it, whoa. That's way too fast. We might actually break this. You go too fast in this thing, and it tends to fly, and then it crashes down. Yeah, we need to go slower. And you break stuff. You need to, there we go. That's a safer speed. Anything more than about 15 is going to be really dangerous. So if I were to go here, I don't like that. Silver's too deep there. There's some gold. I wonder if I can reach the gold. Yep, I should be able to reach the gold. It's only about 30-ish. Alright, so there's my sensor telling me there's gold down there. So I'll just drive over here and park the drills where I want to drill. Hit the parking brake. And then I'm going to go over here. I'm going to hit the number 1. That's going to trigger that rotating. It's going to put the landing gear down. And now it says ready, so I can hit number 2. Now they're locked into place so that it won't move. And then I've got this set up to where all these boxes you see on the side that have the green lights on them, those are timing blocks. And you can use them to program a series of things to happen. And I've got this set up to where if I just hit button number 3, those timing blocks are programmed in a way that they will extend the pistons and the drills all on their own. One at a time. As one piston reaches the end, it will trigger the next piston, so that one will extend, and that will trigger the next piston, and so on, all the way down until all the pistons have finished extending. And then I hit number 4 and bring it all back again. So let's just show how it works. So I'm going to hit number 3, and we'll go back and watch. So you can see just by hitting number 3, it turns the drills on, it turns the rotator on so they spin around, and it's starting to extend. Kind of hard to see because it's the middle one. But there you go. You can see it's slowly pushing down. Just running out of rubber jet juice. And it's slowly pushing down into the dirt at a nice slow speed because you can't go really fast. If you go too fast, you'll break the drills, you'll break the pistons, break the rotors. You have to go to speed fast enough that obviously it doesn't take all night, but slow enough that the drills actually have a chance to drill out the material, because they do take time to drill out the dirt. And so you can't go too fast, because otherwise you just keep slamming it into the dirt that hasn't had a chance to be removed yet, and then things break. So let's see, number 1 is going in. Bit. When that reaches its max, it'll sit there for a few seconds just to make sure, and then the next piston in line will go. Which I don't think it's that one. I think it's, oh yeah, it is that one. You can see here's the timer block for the one currently running, so it's counting down because I timed it. I timed how long it would take. It's a 10-meter distance at 0.1 meters per second, so that's, 100 seconds. It's kind of like a minute and a half for one full piston to reach. And I gave it a couple extra seconds just as, a safe buffer area. And you can see the first one's done. and it automatically switches to, where's the second one? Well, the second piston automatically starts extending. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty automatic system. Just push a button, it goes on its own, fills up everything, and then when you're done, I'm not going to wait for that. That's going to take like, several minutes. It's kind of a long process because there's 5 pistons, each taking about 1.5 minutes. So you're looking about like almost 8 minutes, 9 minutes worth of time to sit there and drill. So we're not going to do that. So I'm just going to click reverse because we've seen enough of that. And that will bring everything back up. Turns off the drills. Wait a minute. Houston, we have a problem. Do we have a programming error? Because this is in creative mode. So I just copied and pasted this from my normal version, my normal game, into creative mode. Sometimes there's little bits of errors that come into play. Alright, so what's happening? Something's not working right. I hit number 4. Let me make sure 4 is the one I want. 4 is drill end. So timer drill end. Where's my timer drill end? Okay, I need timer drill end. Is it working now? Oh, it's working now. That was odd. And for some reason it restarted the drills. Alright, we can fix that. Drills off. Rotor drill head off. Somehow or another their commands got mixed up. It happens sometimes when you do a copy paste, because you can make blueprints and then you can take a blueprint like say here, copy to clipboard. So let me get out. F10. Where was I doing? What was I doing? Oh yeah, this. Copy to clipboard, and it will just magically make it appear. So if you've already built it and you made a blueprint of it in creative mode, you can just pop it in to the game world and it'll be there, and you don't have to waste all the time building every single bit and piece of it, which makes it handy. So, nope, I don't want that. So occasionally though there are a few little bits of errors. Like for instance, this does not seem to want to come back up. I'm not sure why. It's a mystery. I'm going to have to check my programming on that. Alright, so let's go back to the programming menu and see how things are going. Let's go in here. Let's go K. I need timing block, drill end, set up actions. So drills are off, rotators off. They should all have been reversed. Oh, that's the problem. I didn't let them go all. Yeah, this only works if I extend all the way. That was my problem. It's designed for all the pistons to have been extended. And so then I have to reverse it. Since I didn't have all of them extended when I reversed, the ones that were not extended, then extended, and so on. Yeah. Alright, so we can fix that though. Because I can just go, you are in a good spot, you are in a good spot, you are not in a good spot, so let's reverse you. You are not in a good spot, so let's reverse you. And you are not in a good spot, so let's reverse you. Why is that one going down? Nothing should be going down. Somebody else going down. Gosh dang it. Okay, so you're retracting. You are retracted. You are retracted. You are retracted. You are not, for some reason. Alright. That's the problem when you don't do, like, I have it designed to do one full drill all the way to the bottom and then pull everything back up. Since I didn't do that, it messed up the programming because the programming is not flexible enough to say things like, oh, only retract the ones that have been extended. There's programming, like you can do scripts and things that will do that kind of programming, but I don't have that enabled, and I'm not a programmer, so I don't know how to do that. Alright, so we take the landing gear off, bring them back, and now we're ready to roll again. I can go back to driving, but I need to change my wheel strength because my wheel power was way too low and I have lots of weight in it. Not a full load, but still quite a bit. And there we go. So that's my mining rig that I've developed here. Only works here on land and only generally works on relatively smooth terrain. Again, it's not really gonna... I could actually climb up those little hills there and probably do some mining on that, but that would be really kind of dangerous with all the rough edges and the little steep sides to it. Probably really easy to lose control and fall somewhere because all the weight and the inertia and the momentum definitely going to get out of control occasionally, and that's bad because then things wreck and you die. So the other thing that I have been working on is getting into space, because ultimately that's kind of the goal, is to go into space, because there's two primary resources that you cannot find here on the planet. That is uranium and platinum, and those are only found in space. So you got to get to space sometime. And you know, that's kind of the point. This is space engineers, not planet engineers. So those are going the wrong way. I just noticed that. Oh well, that's because I've been messing with the time so I can keep light. Speaking of which, let's do that because the sun's about to set. So let's offset the day. Let's bring it back to morning time because I'm going to need some light. Alright, so this little bugger here has been kind of a pain to build. My first design was just a little bit, just a cockpit. I had a hydrogen tank on it, one thruster and a couple little small hydrogen thrusters, these things here on it, trying to get up into space. Didn't work because it burns through hydrogen fast, and I just did not have enough hydrogen and ran out of fuel very, very, very quickly. So I made a larger version, and I put a cargo tank on here, and then some oxygen and hydrogen generators, so I can transform some ice that I had in the cargo container into hydrogen to refill the hydrogen tank. And then I put some atmospheric thrusters on it so that I can use the atmospheric thrusters to fly up through the atmosphere. And then when I got to the edge of the atmosphere, switch over to the hydrogen and let that push me into space. And that was okay, but not quite good enough. I could not get, even with that, could not get far enough away from the planet. I was still stuck in the planet's atmosphere. So I just kept adding onto it and adding onto it, adding more thrusters so I can get enough thrust to push up. But then if I have more thrusters, I need more hydrogen, so I need more hydrogen tanks. If I have more hydrogen tanks, well, I need more cargo tanks and more O2H2 generators to replenish them. And it just kept adding and adding and adding until I got to this thing. Oops, speaking of which, I need to go refuel my own personal jetpack. So as I'm doing that, oh, looks like we've had some damage here. Okay, looks like the guns have been shooting at something and accidentally hit the base. So, yeah, it's been kind of interesting adding and subtracting and manipulating things and trying to figure out what the best balance is for mass, because, you know, you need to have it light enough so that you're not, how do you say it? You're not, if it's too heavy, it's too hard to push its way out of the atmosphere. It's too hard to push against gravity, and it takes too much thrust, too much energy, and you burn through it too fast. So you want it light enough that you can push against gravity fairly effectively, but you also need it with enough thrust to be able to do that, which means you need enough fuel to be able to get away, which means you need more thrust. And so there's this huge balancing act between the mass of the fuel, the engines that you need to build, and the amount of thrust that you can make. So I finally got this. Sort of, it's not perfect, but it's there. It gets me into space. So I'm going to show what it's like. So I'm going to take off. We're going to turn our batteries on, turn our jet engines on, and we're going to just go straight up into space, because my strongest thrusters are pointing straight down. So it's easier just to go straight up like this, like a hovercraft. Just up and up and up and up and up. Then we just go like this for a while, until we hit about 5,000 meters. That seems to be the atmosphere level for the planet. And you can see as we get higher, you know, it's not a big planet. It's not full-size planet Earth. There's definitely some curve to it. You can see that just a couple kilometers up, we can already see that there's definitely some very small curvature. This is not a big planet. It's more like not even the moon-sized sort of a deal. It's very, very, very tiny. Okay, so we're getting about 4,000. So if you look down on the bottom left where the speedometer is, where it's got the meters per second, you can see even though I'm going up, my speed is going down. That's because I'm running out of atmosphere, and my momentum is running out. So what I need to do now is switch over to my hydrogen thrusters, turn off the atmospheric thrusters, point straight up, and then just go. Oops, I'm not quite straight up. There we go. Alright. Let's see. And we're slowly pushing our way up. Our speed is slowly building back up. You can see there's that kind of curve in the background. It's kind of like the bubble of the atmosphere. Now, one trick that I've heard is that if you watch the speedometer, right, I'm at max speed, so I'm going to let go of the thrusters, and it's going to speed down. And then I put them back on, let the speed build up, because if you keep the thrusters on, like once I hit 100, I can't go faster than that. So there's no point in continuing to push with the thrusters if I can't go past that speed. So this way, I get up to speed, and then I stop burning fuel. And it saves you a little bit of fuel that way, because you're not using as much. You're letting the engines kind of rest a little bit sometimes. And what's also helpful, if you look in the, not the bottom right, but kind of like the bottom right center, where you can see that little glove thing, right next to the glove, to the right of it, it says A gravity and P gravity. That's artificial gravity and planetary gravity. And you can see the planetary gravity is getting smaller, which helps because it means I need less thrust, which means I need to use less fuel. And if I turn my dampeners off, which I should have done a long time ago, which is probably killing me. I don't mean to my lights on. Turn the dampeners off, you just have your own inertia pushing you forward, helping you go. And since gravity is not as strong, it's not going to slow you down as much. And I'm not sure why that hydrogen tank is red. Why is that hydrogen tank red? Why is it off? That's odd. There we go. So we're just going to keep doing this. We coast for a little bit. When our speed gets down to about 50, put the thrusters back on, probably used up an extra amount of fuel there because I had the dampeners on, and the inertial dampeners are great when you're in atmosphere or when you're trying to maneuver around tight areas and you want controlled movement. But if you just want to go and go and go, you want them off because you want your inertia to help push you forward. So keeping them on when I got into space was probably not helpful. For some reason, I don't know why, that second tank there had been turned off and was not helping at all. But it's on now, so we're good. And here we are. We're out in space. We're less than 0.3 g from the planet, so less than a third of the planet's gravity is working on us, so we can pretty well not have to worry about using fuel too much, because it's not going to slow us down. It's still going to slow us down a little, but it's going to take a lot longer to slow us down than it used to. And over here we've got asteroids, and this is one of the things, the whole point of getting out of space. You can see out there, that's the planet Mars, and Mars has its moon. And over here is some alien planet that may have its own moon. And then there's also, where is it? Earth's moon way over there. And then of course you got all the different little asteroids and stuff. We're going to go visit a couple of them just to check them out. So like for instance this one here. So let's go run over and see what this one is. And again, I got my speed up, headed toward there, and then I just let off the accelerator. And the engines aren't really doing anything right now. It's just momentum that's carrying me forward. Inertia, the property of matter, according to Newton's first law, where an object in motion tends to stay in motion unless acted upon by an unbalanced force, in this case gravity, which is trying to pull me back. So I have to keep adding some more force to counteract that, and then let my inertia continue to carry me forward. See, there's the planet. Not too big. Not a lot to it. It's not like you're going to find a whole bunch of crazy animals and jungles and weird, different places like that in it. It's just a big giant rock for you to dig into, find some stuff, then you get out into space, find some more big giant rocks, dig into them, build other things to go find other planets to go to dig into, and just repeat and repeat and repeat. Alright, so we still got a ways to go to get to that one. Although it does seem to be getting closer, it doesn't seem to be that big. So let's see what this little rock has for us. It doesn't have anything. Some of them may not have anything. Some of them are just plain rock. But some of them will have ore deposits. It may have silver or gold. It may have nickel. It may have silicon. It may have iron. It may have uranium, which is really, really, really good because then you can make nuclear reactors, which when you get nuclear reactors, you can then make ion thrusters, which are supposed to be better than the hydrogen thrusters that I'm using now. The problem is ion thrusters do not work in atmosphere, whereas these hydrogen ones can. It's just they're not very good, and you shouldn't use them in atmosphere unless you have to, because it's kind of a waste of fuel sort of thing. I mean, if you got some batteries and some regular atmospheric thrusters, use them. Not really a good idea to try and use hydrogen, unless you got massive amounts of hydrogen, but I don't, because I just haven't built it up yet. I need to find, well, I've got the big lake, but I haven't gone and mined it yet. I don't have the storage capacity to turn it into billions of tons worth of hydrogen. And someday I might build a big giant ship where I need like 10 different hydrogen tanks to store all the hydrogen that I need for it. But right now, this is my biggest spaceship, and it's just a dinky little thing. So over here, getting closer. Come on. You know, this is space. Distances are kind of big in space. But not especially big. You're only dealing with like 10, 15, 20 kilometers between things, which can take a while. but it's not like, real space where you're dealing with like millions of kilometers distance between things, or maybe even billions. So there is a little bit of adjustment in order to make the game playable. There's also a jump drive that you can eventually research and build to basically teleport across long distances, but I haven't gotten there yet because I don't have the platinum or uranium that I need to develop those technologies. Alright, so getting a little bit closer. This is taking forever. But that's kind of what happens when you're in space. It takes a while to get places. Okay. And supposedly, somewhere out here among these asteroids and other planets, there's also supposed to be space pirates. Oh, here we go, here we go. And you can see there's a little bit of tinge of blue right there that we just passed by. Let me turn on the dampener so we can slow down. That means there's cobalt in there. Now this is going to be one of the advantages of mining asteroids. Like if I go mining on a planet, I have to dig through tons and tons of rock. I have to dig down through meters of rock just to get to where an ore deposit might be. Which is, it's not too bad because the stone does give you iron and nickel and silicon, which are useful. But sometimes you just want to get straight to the deposit and not waste time. Here we go. Yep, and there's cobalt right there, sitting on the surface, and I could just straight into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this, and I'm going to put in A for asteroid, cobalt. And so that will always stay there, so I can always come back and find this again if I need to. So if I ever come back out into space and decide to start mining, I know where I can get an easy supply of cobalt without having to drill through tons of rock. Now a lot of these asteroids have these nice little tunnels through them, which are really good because that way you can kind of sense, are there other ore deposits around here? Maybe they might not be on the surface, but close to the surface, so you can just drive through them and maybe get a sense of if there's anything in them. Let's go look at this one. So my next project is going to be making a bigger ship, because ultimately I want to build a base out here, kind of similar to the one I have down there, where I can just mine stuff and bring it to the base, process it. Ultimately, I want to get to the moon and build a base on the moon. But that's kind of a long trip. It's way over on the other side of the planet, and it's probably pretty far out there. So I don't know. We'll have to see. I have to see how far away the moon is, how long of a trip that takes. But I'm definitely going to need a larger ship, because I'm going to need to be able to carry materials to this base, either on a moon or on an asteroid. Because this thing right here, I have enough cargo space for the ice I need to carry so that I have fuel. If I add more cargo space and fill it up with construction materials, oh no, that means I'm going to need more power, more fuel, and it's just a never-ending cycle of making things bigger and more complicated, and but it is kind of fun doing that, because then you have to kind of challenge yourself and figure out, if I add 2 more engines, how much fuel am I going to need for that? Can I go with the fuel I've got? Am I going to need another tank? If I add another tank, am I going to need another cargo thing to be able to resupply it? Oh, there's so many questions that come up with that. Alright, so, let's turn on the dampeners so we can slow down. So they will automatically, that's what inertial dampeners do. They look at your motion and they say, we want to stop whatever motion is going on so that you eventually come to a standstill. So if I'm sliding to the left side thrusters will turn on to try and stop that motion until I eventually come to a relative standstill. Alright, does this asteroid have anything? It's kind of an ugly, funky looking thing. Lots of craters and chunks torn out of it. Looks like it got stuck in a big giant battle or something. Now, ice is always really important to find because ice is my fuel. So I need to find sources of ice so that I can refuel out here. Otherwise, that looks like some ice right there. Well, isn't that convenient? I was just talking about you, and you showed up. Isn't that handy? And that's why I put the drills on this. Because my first time out, I didn't have the drills on the ship, and I ran out of fuel. Because I didn't run out. I did run out, but then I had to get out and mine the ice by hand, and then stick it into the ship by hand. And that took a long time to get enough ice for me to be able to get back to Earth. So I'm like, yeah, forget that. I'm just going to put some drills on here. So if I need to, how much ice do I have? Let me look at my ship inventory. So this one's 2/3 empty, and this one's practically empty. So, I mean, I got plenty of fuel to get back, because you actually don't need a whole lot of fuel to get back, because gravity will do most of the work for you. But let's just grab some for the fun of it. So this is how you would refuel in space. Find some ice, dig it up, and I've got the O2H2 generators on my ship that will take the ice, separate it into oxygen and hydrogen, and refill my hydrogen tanks. So you can see my hydrogen tanks are already back up to like 92%. And while I've just been kind of sitting here not doing much of anything, they've been taking the ice that's already been sitting in my cargo hold and turning it into hydrogen to fill up my tanks. This is just going to replace that ice. Again, don't really need it, but whatever. It's there. I got it. I wonder if there's anything else here. Oh, I should probably label that. I might need that. GPS from here. Asteroid. Ice. There we go. Wonder if there's something else. Is this just an ice rock? This might just be an ice rock. And it's pretty hollow. Lots of it's been blown out. So there may not be much of anything else mineral-wise. Nope, that looks like about it. Alright, so we're just going to head back, and I'll show you how to land from space and why landing is so much nicer and easier than trying to get into space. So basically, you just okay, those signals right there, that's where my base is. So all I'm going to do is turn off my initial dampeners, and I'm going to accelerate to full speed, and then I'm going to stop, and then I'm not going to do anything because now gravity is just going to take over. My own inertia is going to keep me heading this way, and since gravity is pulling me this direction anyways, it's not going to slow me down. It's just going to keep me going and going and going. So I don't have to spend any more fuel until I get into the atmosphere. Then I'm going to need to spend fuel because I'm going to need to slow down. I'm going to be going super, super fast. You don't want to smash into a planet when you're going that fast. That's not good. I've done that once or twice, I think. Maybe more. But I'm not counting. I think I usually eject before I actually hit, so I don't tend to die. But my ship does tend to get blown up if that happens. It doesn't happen very often, but it is kind of risky because you never really know when you're first starting out and you're building your first ship. You don't really know how much is it going to take to get to space? How much energy am I going to have? How many engines am I going to need? How much battery power? How much fusion power am I going to have? How much ice am I going to need to carry? You don't know those things. So you kind of have to experiment, and experimenting means trial and error. And that error part is the, oh no, I didn't have enough and now I'm crashing. Alright, start over. Let's try it again. So, as I said, my next goal is to make a larger version. I don't know if I'm going to do a large block version, because this is a small grid ship. It's using the small size of all the pieces. And, you know, it's still pretty hefty. I mean, I need 5 of these, 6 of those large atmospherics just to get it to fly. But it doesn't carry very much, and I'm not sure if I want to go much bigger on a small grid ship. I can, but I don't know. Or I can go with a large grid, which is pretty much the proportion of what that mining scooter rig thing is that I was showing you down there. That's a large grid. The base is built on large grid squares. So if I build a ship, it's basically going to be like building my base, but with rocket engines on it. So imagine how heavy that would be. Imagine how much engine thrust I would need. Yeah, I don't know. That might not be a good idea. I might have to stick with the small grids, because I think the large grid, trying to get a large grid off the planet is just going to be too hard. Once I get like a base out here, and I don't need to worry about going back to the planet with the large ship, I can just use the large ship out in space, that might be okay. But I think for going back and forth, it would have to be a small grid like this one, but just a slightly bigger one. So maybe I'm thinking, obviously I'm going to need a couple more cargo containers. Probably going to need one more maybe hydrogen container, hydrogen tank. Probably going to need some more atmospheric thrusters, a couple more hydrogen thrusters on the back. Probably going to need to add at least 2 more small hydrogen thrusters per direction. Because ultimately what I want to do is bring up enough stuff that I can go to a really good asteroid, or just go to the moon. I don't know. I'm going to have to see how far away the moon is. How long is it a trip to the moon? I mean, it's on the other side of the planet, plus its own distance away. So probably looking at like 100, 150 kilometers. That's a long way. That's going to take a long flight to get there, especially without a jump drive. So I may just make a base on one of these asteroids up here, where I can just go straight up off the planet, straight to the asteroid, and then start building things on it. So what am I going to need if I build the base? Well, I'm going to need some place where I can dock a ship, some place where I can process hydrogen and oxygen so I can refuel, and my own personal oxygen and hydrogen tanks. Probably going to need some sort of pressurized room that I can be in. Are we getting near the atmosphere? No, we got a ways to go. Going to need refinery. Obviously going to need a refinery. Or 6. Probably not 6. Probably only like 3, maybe 4 at the most. Because asteroid, it's going to be a small base. Actually, really 2, maybe 3 at the most. Going to need assemblers so I can assemble products. Because I'm basically going to need to build a fully functioning, self-contained base on the asteroid, which means all the stuff I have down there, the refineries, the assemblers, the storage tanks, all of that I'm going to need to rebuild up in space on an asteroid. And considering how much it took to build this, just this little tiny base that I have here, this is not a big base. This is actually very, very small. And as much as it took to build that, I'm going to have to do that again on an asteroid. And then I'm going to have to do it again on the moon. Yeah, that's going to be... Alright, so we're in the atmosphere, so I'm going to turn on my atmospheric thrusters. And we're going to keep falling. I'm going to let gravity work, but I'm going to level out a little bit. Actually, you know what? No. We're at 2,000. So I'm going to turn on my dampeners. We're going to let them slow us down because I don't want to go crashing down. That would be bad. So I can keep going like this and aim down here. And then as we get closer, 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 level out. And I've got all my thrusters working right now. I've got the hydrogen thrusters and my atmospheric thrusters. So I get plenty of thrust in whichever direction I need to go. Alright, so let's just level out a little bit. And we'll just drop straight down. Careful we don't go too fast, otherwise we go slamming into the ground. Done that a few times. So you have to be careful that you don't... Like right now I got a lot of weight in me because I'm carrying a lot of ice. So if I start pushing down, I get a whole lot of momentum and inertia pushing down. My thrusters may not be able to slow me down in time. There's a lot of downs in that sentence. Alright, so let's go down, 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 down. With more. Level out, level out, level out. By the way, Sean, if you're watching this, I'm still waiting for that video. I know, you got a busy weekend, but I'm going to need a good laugh. Alright, and lining up with the connectors. And there we go, touchdown. So thrusters off, connect, and batteries and other thrusters off. And there we go. So that's a trip into space with my most rudimentary, ugly duckling looking Frankenstein monster slapped together spaceship thing. Not at all pretty. Doesn't need to be pretty. You can make it pretty. I could put a whole bunch of armor on here to give it a nice shape. The only problem is that adds weight. Which, again, if you add weight, means you burn fuel faster, and so I need to worry about more fuel tanks, and it becomes a hassle. So I'm fine with it looking ugly like this, because I know this works, and I know that I got enough fuel that I can get up and down and do what I need to do. Alright, so that's our progress so far. Maybe one of these days I'll do a video on actually making the new spaceship. I don't know if I'm just going to modify this one or build a brand new one. I might just build a brand new one because this one, I don't know. It works, but it may not be the most efficient design, especially since I just like slapped those tanks on the top and then slapped these engines on the back, and it's just very unprofessionally designed. Very inefficient. Alright, so thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and come back again next time. Have a good one.